Okay, this video is going to show you how to draw a quick sketch of Mulan. The first thing you're going to need is a sheet of paper, and you want it to be tall like a hamburger, okay? I have mine just lightly sketched out, but I'm going to draw it a little bit darker so you'll be able to see as I go. The first thing that we're going to do is draw her face. So we're just going to draw around the side of her face down to a chin, and then back around to the other side of her face. Now when you're drawing, I highly suggest that you draw light with your pencil. I'm pressing kind of hard just because I want it to show up well on the video. But you will be erasing some of these lines later on, so make sure you draw light. It will make that erasing a little bit easier. So like I said, the first thing is just the shape of the face. We're going to put a neckline coming down at the bottom of the face. And then the next thing that we're going to work on is her hair. So on the side of her face, I'm going to make some hair that peeks around the side. She's going to have more hair that comes down over her face. It's going to go right along her eye. And then at the top of her head, it's just going to round around the side and connect with her neck. Okay, you're going to notice I left a few little gaps here on the side. The reason why is I'm just going to give her some earrings dangling down. So if you didn't leave any space there, just feel free to erase if you need to. That's just going to connect up towards her face. Okay. The next thing that I'm going to do for Mulan is give her some eyebrows. So about at the center of the face, I'm just going to make an eyebrow that comes up and then out to the side. And then the same thing on the other side, but this one's actually going to tuck into her hair because her hair kind of falls down over her face. Okay. For her eye, it's going to be right about the corner of the eyebrow area. I'm just going to make some lines that come back. Those are going to be her eyelashes. Doesn't have to be anything perfect. We're just kind of sketching it out for now. And then the underside of her eye will come down and back once again towards the hairline. And then I'm just going to put the center part of her eye peeking out the corner. Same thing's going to happen on the other side. She's going to have some eyelashes that come back. So once again, those lines are not perfect or straight. On the underside, it just comes down and connects towards the center of the face. And then I'm just rounding it where the eyeball would be. Okay. She doesn't actually have a nose in this drawing, so what I'm going to do is just come down between the eyebrows towards the chin, and I'm going to put just two little lines where her nose or nostril area would be. They're not very dark. Mine are kind of dark just because I'm pressing hard for the camera, but just short little lines. They're going to be where her nose would go. Now, I always feel like people are hard to draw. This is definitely not one of my stronger skills, but what I'm going to do next is work on the mouth. And like I said, once again, this is hard for me. So if you're struggling, just keep trying. Don't give up. I'm just going to go ahead and start out with the top lip. The top lip is almost like the shape of the letter M. It has just kind of some curves at the top. It's like a squished or a flat M. Now the top lip is going to be pretty thin and narrow, so I'm just going to do a small underside to that lip, just kind of going right along that M shape that I made from before, and then it's going to come back to the other side. Like I said, pretty narrow. Then she's going to have a lower lip that's going to be just a little bit more plump. It's going to be a little thicker. Just going to connect it from one side to the other. I don't know if I like right here, so I'm going to thicken this up just a little bit. So make sure you guys have an eraser with you when you're drawing. You might need it. And then like I said, this lip is going to be a little thicker, so it's going to start thin in the corner, but it's going to be the space between here and here is a little bit wider. Okay. Then once you get it the way you like it, you can darken it up if you need to just a little bit. And just like that, we have Mulan's face. So the next thing we're going to do is come up and work on her hair and the flower part of her hair. Okay, so the flower is kind of a wild, crazy flower. What I'm going to do is just draw a few petals. They do not have to be perfect. Some of them are going to go up towards the top. Some of them are going to curve down towards the sides or the bottom. So I'm just adding those petals. That one kind of overlaps her hair just a little bit. Okay, so that gives the flower for Mulan's face. She's going to have just a little bit of a hair tie coming through right in here, and then I'm going to do her hair pulled up. Just kind of some wispy lines that go through there for the top part of her hair. Okay. All right, I'm going to slide my picture back towards the bottom, and we're going to give her her clothes. So on this side, her collar just kind of sticks up on this side of her neck, so I'm going to do almost kind of an upside down V shape. The other side of her collar comes down, it's a little bit thicker at the bottom, and then it tucks in behind her neck on that side. Going to give her a shoulder coming out on this side, and a little bit more sloped shoulder on the other side, not quite as curved. And then I'm just going to do some rough lines for the straps there. Okay, nothing too fancy. Thicken it up on the bottom just a little bit. So just like that, you have a rough drawing of Mulan. Your next step before we add color is going to be to lightly erase the lines so that they're not quite so dark. We don't want them to show through when we color. So yours should be lightly erased, kind of like mine. Okay, once you get all of your lines lightly erased, what you're going to do next, I'm not going to erase mine completely because I want you to be able to see them, but I do want you to try to lightly erase yours. What you're going to do next is work with some charcoal sticks. So I want to show you what those look like. A charcoal stick kind of comes in a rectangular prism, I guess, like this. Mine's a little bit warped, it's a little bit bent. But what happens is when you write with it, let me get a blank piece of paper here, it is black like this, but it also smudges real easy. So you want to be careful not to drag your hand across it or it will make a mess, okay? So I'm going to use my charcoal stick for the majority of Mulan, and I'm going to use it for her hair, her face, her eyes, her clothes, and then I'm going to do some pops of color with her lips, her flower, and her headband, okay? So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to start over here on this side of her head with her hair. I'm just going to try to do a nice outline around that outside edge. When I get to that earring that I drew, I am going to stop, okay? I don't want to overlap that part. So I'm just coming right around the flower I drew up here, right along the edge of her face, and I've got my nice outline for the side of her hair. Now what I want to do is do line strokes to color in that hair. Some of them I'm pressing a little bit harder, so you notice it's going to be a little bit darker black, and then I'm kind of filling in the edges in the background with that. So just coloring in that whole section using my charcoal stick. Remember, it will smudge, so try really hard not to drag your fingers across it. It's okay if just a little bit of that white shows through as some highlight. Then when I get down here to the earring, I want to color that part in solid. So I'm pressing kind of hard. I'm going to just kind of outline where that earring goes and then fill in the whole shape. Okay. Then once again, on the underside of that section of hair, I'm just coloring that in with my charcoal stick. And it is okay if the hair overlaps the earring just a little bit. Okay, still using your same charcoal stick, you're going to go around the other side of the face with the hair. So I am just going to trace right over that line that comes down by the eye. Like I said, if you press a little bit harder, you're going to get a darker color. Don't be surprised, too, if you press too hard, your charcoal stick may break, and that's okay. That happens sometimes. I'm actually going to give her a few little hair wispies that are coming down from under the flower. Okay, so just a few little lines for that. And then on the back side of the head, once again, I'm just going to trace that. When I get to the earring, I'm going to kind of come through the back side there to connect it to the neck. The earring is going to be colored in dark, so you can trace that. And then just fill it in solid with your black charcoal stick. And then the hair is going to be wispy like it is on this side. So lots of little lines. They're just going to kind of come down. And then we'll fill in the background pieces with color. I'm going to go ahead and outline around my flower just to kind of fill that space in. And then I'm going to start adding the hair, just using lines with that black charcoal stick. Okay, so once you get all of that hair section filled in on this side of her face, we're going to go ahead and come up to the top of her hair where it's all tied up. So I'm still using my charcoal stick. I am just going to outline where her hair is. It's kind of in the bun type shape. And I'm going to outline around that flower so that I know where I want to color. This is where a little headband's going to go. I'm not even doing anything really nice or in order. It's just all kind of random, and we're just going to kind of fill in this back hair area the same way we did the sides. Okay, so I've got all of my hair filled in on mine. If you have a lot of white showing through and you want to come back and just kind of color over the white places just to give it a little darker effect, feel free to do that. Like I said, I'm just using that charcoal stick to fill in the blanks. The next part that we're going to do is Mulan's face. So we're going to come down and work on her eyelashes and her eyes after you get the hair all filled in. Okay, so for Mulan's face, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and start with, you want to try not to drag your hand across the paper. So one trick that I have learned over the years, you can either put down a paper towel where you're going to rest your hand, or you can use another sheet of paper. So in the classroom, it's easy to just grab a paper towel. I'm resting my hand on that extra sheet of paper or a paper towel just so that I don't smear and drag. So that's just a little trick that I've learned over time. I'm going to go ahead and take my charcoal stick and I'm going to start out with her eyebrows. I just kind of traced right over where my pencil line was, and then I'm just going to kind of come in and thicken it up just a little bit so her eyebrow's not quite so thin. So it's just kind of like drawing lines with lines. So that eyebrow is done. The other side is going to kind of tuck in under her hair. So once again, I'm just kind of starting right where my pencil line was, tucking that in under her hair, and then you can add a few other lines with it to thicken it up, just like so. Let me see if I can get it so it's not too thick. There we go, just like that. All right, for her eyes, what we're going to do is start in the center, and we're just going to draw lines that come out for her lashes. Some of them are going to be longer, some of them shorter, and they go clear to the back of her eye. And then just kind of some light wispy lines on the underside, and then you're going to fill in the colorful part of her eye is just going to be done in black, okay? And we're going to do something similar on the other side. Once again, just kind of going over those pencil lines. They're going to look like lashes, so they're really wispy and thin. And then on the underside of her eye, it's just going to come right back in towards the center where the nose would be. And then we're going to fill in the colorful part of the eye, just solid black. I feel like this one needs to be a little bit bigger in comparison to that other eye. All right, the next part we're going to work on will be the nose. After you finish her eyes, our next step is to come down and finish the lower part of her face and her clothes. So I'm just going to take my charcoal, I'm kind of using the corner of it. Once again, I'm going to use my scrap paper or a paper towel to rest my hand on so that I don't smear. And then I'm just going to finish the line that goes around her chin and then back up around to her neck area. On her nose, I'm just going to fill in those little nostrils that we made earlier. They're not very big or not very dark, just kind of a faint little line there. Okay. Then still using the charcoal stick, I'm going to come down to her neckline and just trace those. They're going to be pretty thin lines for her neck. And then on the collar, the lines are going to get a little bit thicker. So I'm just kind of darkening these in a little bit. This is where I'm doing more coloring rather than outlining. And then same thing on this collar. And this one's going to just be colored in. Remember, if you press harder, you're going to get a darker color with your charcoal. Okay, and it is kind of just a messy sketch, okay? I'm going to move my scrap paper out of the way. I don't think I'll need it for this part. I'm going to go ahead and do the shoulder area. Once again, it's not a nice clean line. It's just kind of a wispy, messy line on both of her shoulders. And then I'm going to do the straps for her clothing right here. I'm just kind of going right over those pencil lines. And that's all you have to do for her clothes and her face and her hair. So I'm going to try to lift this up just a little bit so you can see all of that with the hair too. Our next step is going to be to add a few pops of color. All right, we're going to add the color using chalk pastels. So I have a set of chalk pastels here. I think at the elementary classroom we just have chalk pastels that are in individual colors per bucket. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose some red, and I'm going to use that on her little headband in her hair. So I'm going to turn mine sideways. I'm going to lay that scrap paper down so I can rest my hand on it without smearing. And just right in behind this flower area, I'm just going to fill this headband in. Remember, chalk pastels do smear, so you want to be careful not to brush your hand across it or it will make a mess. So I'm just kind of filling this area in using those chalks. Get a little bit closer to her hair right here. Okay. And then I'm just going to shake off that extra dust from the chalks, and there I have the little headband by her hair. The next thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to go over her lips with that pop of color of red. So I'm going to set my scrap paper down one more time so that I can rest my hand on it. And then I'm just going to lightly come in, I'm kind of using the corner of it. I'm going to go over those lips and then just try to fill them in to give a little pop of color. And it is kind of a tiny area, so it's a little bit harder to color in. So I've got the top lip. I'm going to come in and do the bottom lip the same way. Just going to kind of outline and then fill the center part in with color. And remember, you don't want to brush it off with your hand because it will smear as you go. So make sure that you're careful with that. I have a little bit of chalk dust on mine, so I'm just going to shake off that extra. That cleaned that up a little bit. And then the next part that I'm ready for is the flower in her hair. So I'm going to use a few different colors for the flower. I'm actually going to turn mine so I don't drag my hand across her face and smear any of that. I'm going to start out with some blue. And I'll probably use a few different shades of blue. So I'm going to go ahead and fill just a little bit of space in with this darker blue, and then I'm going to come back in with a lighter blue. And I'm kind of doing this darker blue more towards the center of the flower, not along the ends of the petals. Chalks do kind of get squeaky when you're coloring with them, so don't be surprised if you hear that sound a little bit. Now your flower does not have to be the same color as mine. I'm just doing blues, but if you want to choose a different color, that is fine. Okay, I'm going to come back in with a little bit of lighter blue. I'm going to do that lighter blue along the ends of the petals. And just kind of bringing it into where the darker blue was and mixing those colors together. Remember, chalks will get kind of dusty, so when we're all done, we'll shake off the extra. Do a little bit of that light blue here in the center, and then I'm going to come back in with some yellow. Once again, you can choose your colors. You're going to get pretty dirty from your chalk, so you may have to wash your hands in between colors if you get too dirty. And then I'm just going to bring in the yellows right into the center of the flower. It doesn't have to be perfect or pretty, just kind of some line strokes. I'm going to dust off the extra, shake it off onto the trash. And then just like that, I have Mulan. My final step is going to be to sign my name in the lower right corner. You can do that with Sharpie, you can do it with your chalks or with your charcoals. And then once you have that complete, your project is finished.